This is a Flying Cow production.
Book 1, Water. Book 2, Earth. Book 3, Fire. Long ago, Nickelodeon introduced a series called Avatar: The Last Airbender. It combined great anime-style animation, strong storytelling, heart, and humor. It was great, and everyone that saw it loved it. Until one day, a terrible movie came out which everyone hated. But my co-host Lauren Collins knows none of this because he's never seen the show. And that's why we are watching every episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender, because I believe this could be Lauren's new favorite show. Or at least top 20. Well, hello and welcome back to Comets and Cabbages here on the Flying Cow. My name is Clay Johnson, the Flying Cow himself, and I am a member of the White Lotus.
Well, my name's Amanda, and I took my allergy medicine, so before too long, I'm going to be just like Sokka on cactus juice.
Yeah!
Yeah! It's that time of year!
Yeah!
And I'm Lauren, and I was also gonna make a cactus juice reference, and now Amanda stole my fire there. So.
You know what? There's never too many cactus juice.
Do it again!
Jokes.
Who cares?
It's cactus juice. It's fine.
Yeah.
That's true, yes.
I also imbibe in the cactus juice.
Yes.
Oh, all right. But yes, we are here today. Like I said, this is Comets and Cabbages. We are talking today about Avatar: The Last Airbender. We are officially in the second half of the season, episode 11. Lots and lots of fun here.
This is like the midpoint of the entire series.
True.
Yes.
That is true. I didn't really think about that. I mean, I guess some people might think that it's a little past because there are a lot of two-parters in season 3, but it's still the same length. You know.
Yeah.
It's just a different number of episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
There were 21 episodes in season 3.
But the last 4 are basically one.
But I mean, it's 4 half hours, right?
Yeah.
So we have finished 30 half hours. We have 30 half hours left to go, and this is the point. Yeah.
There you go. But yeah, so we are in the second half, like I said. But before we got on, we were kind of talking about where we are in the series, and in the last episode, a big moment happened in the series, the bison napping of Appa. And not to give anything away, but this is going to be something that we're going to be dealing with for a few episodes. And I will say, there are certain shows that I really enjoy and I like to rewatch, but there are certain shows that have certain moments in the series that when I get to them, I want to get through those episodes as quickly as possible because there's something about them that make me a little tense or a little anxious or a little unhappy that make me just want to get through that part of the show so that I can get back to where everything is the way that I want it to be. Whether it be like, a couple breaking up or something like with this, this is definitely one of them. The napping of Appa. I will say, well, I'm not going to say that there aren't episodes in this run while Appa is gone that I enjoy. There certainly are. But it is a more tense time in the show for me. So usually when I watch this is going to be difficult because usually when I watch this, I watch all of the episodes where Appa is gone, like in the same day, just to kind of get it done. So I wanted to ask you guys, am I alone in this? Do you guys have similar shows where like you might rewatch it, but if you're going to watch it, you're either going to go through this part of it quickly, or you're going to maybe even skip that part of it or something like that? I will say one for me came up recently. I did a rewatch of the show Psych. And if anybody out there is a fan of the show Psych, kind of the relationship, the main relationship in that show is the lead Sean and one of the detectives, Juliet. And there is a point at which she makes a big if you haven't seen the show, I'm not going to ruin it, but a big discovery is made and they break up for a certain point in time. And I immediately looked ahead to remind myself, when do they get back together? And I made sure that I watched all of the episodes while they were separated until they got back together on the same day, because I was like, I don't want to live in that energy. But like for you guys, are there any shows or moments like that in shows that you can think of that you can share?
Pokemon.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Specifically, I mean, there are a few in, like, everybody always wants to say like the Bye Bye Butterfree is like super heart wrenching, or like Pikachu's Goodbye, which, spoiler, Pikachu did not go anywhere. Those are the ones that people always want to talk about. But in Pokemon Sun and Moon, there are 2 episodes specifically. That's the Alola region, so that would be Gen, I want to say 7. I can't count right now. I'm on allergy medicine. So there's one exactly. There's one with the Stoutland episode, and it's been out a long time, and I really don't feel like I'm going to spoil it all that much. But you find out Stoutland dies, and I can't handle that one. I cannot handle that one because like Litten comes in to basically tell you like we can't find Stoutland, and then turns out Stoutland's dead. And then there's another one called Memories in the Mist, which is a throwback to that one. Stoutland or Litten has evolved into Torcat and goes to the mist, where it's very similar to the swamp. In this one, you see visions of people or those you miss. And so he sees Stoutland and is like, look at me, look what I can do. And then Malo goes in and she finds who is a human, and she talks to her mom who died. And she just starts sobbing right there. And I can't do this one. I can't handle it. It's a beautifully done episode.
Sure.
And it's one that's like, I appreciate the episode. I can't handle it.
Yeah. No, I get it. Lauren, anything like that for you, or are you an unfeeling, heartless wretch?
I am a robot. I mean, yes. But no, I mean, but honestly, a lot of it comes down to the fact I don't tend to rewatch a lot of shows.
Okay.
Sure. And when I do, I usually tend to approach them the same way that I approach a show like when I'm watching it for the first time. It's like I don't super love binging it in the first place. So yeah, I wouldn't tend to consolidate episodes just to get through them. But no, I mean, the last time I made any effort, I think, to rewatch an entire show, in relatively short order from the last time I'd seen it, was when I rewatched Better Call Saul.
Okay.
But in advance of the last season. But no, even then, like, there wasn't anything I was trying to rush my way through, I don't think. No, just not my style, I guess.
All right. So you heard it here, folks. Lauren has no heart. No, I'm just kidding.
No. Nope. I need to visit the wizard. And he can give me.
Tin Man needs a heart.
That's true. Yeah.
A heart. Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. Well, then let us go ahead and get right into the episode. We are today talking about episode number 11 in book 2, Earth, and that is The Desert. It was directed by Lauren McMullen, written by Tim Hedrick, and it debuted July 14th, 2006. Like I said, this was the second, this was part 2 of the original 44-minute special called The Fury of Aang, which honestly, you could have just called this episode The Fury of Aang, because that's pretty much his predominant feature throughout the episode.
Yeah, not a lot of fury in the last episode, except at the very, very end.
Right. Yeah. So I get renaming the first one the library, but they really could have just stuck with The Fury of Aang on this episode, and it would have totally made sense. Because it starts off, the first scene seems very just somber and sad, and yes, sadness was the note that I wrote down. But very quickly we get angry Aang. And I clipped this out because this is the face that Aang is making through the majority of the episode. He is very unhappy, starts throwing accusations at Toph. And, we discussed it in the last episode. Toph obviously did
Toph was
everything.
put in a horrible situation.
Yes. Like, Aang, here's the thing. Aang would have chosen Appa in that. I don't know that he would have been able to do what Toph was able to do. But I think in that moment, we'll talk more as the episode goes on. But the one thing I will say about this episode is that we get mostly just Aang's feelings of anger and frustration. We don't talk so much about why. And I think maybe it might come up more in later episodes. But obviously, Appa is really Aang's only living connection to his past. All of his former life is gone, literally. And so Appa is Aang's, not just his pet, his best friend. And, those of us that have pets, we understand that. Something happened to Teddy, I'd probably lose my shit too. But not just that, but he is also his only connection to who he was, to his past. So I get where he's coming from. Like I said, I do wish maybe they'd said that, because, if you're not thinking about that, it's just like, wow, Aang's really angry. If you don't understand the motivation, it can just come off as beating a dead horse. But
we were just talking earlier before we started recording about John Wick. This is a very John Wick type of thing to do. Right. He lost the animal in his life that means the most to him. Aang should go full John Wick on the Fire Nation, honestly.
I would do that if somebody did that to my cats.
Yeah. So, obviously, like I said, Aang is angry and he is lashing out. Katara definitely steps up and, defends Toph. Basically is like, Toph did the best she could. Basically everything that we have said. And Aang just decides to fly off and go see if he can find Appa, see if he can track these people down. Unfortunately, because they're in a desert and they're in sand and sand shifts, there's no tracks or anything left. He can't find a trail. Meanwhile, Katara is basically just trying to keep the group together.
It's bad when Katara is the one that's like trying to help Toph.
Well,
Katara.
Sure. We've definitely seen that they have been at odds early on here, but here's the thing. We have kind of messed with Katara, and we've kind of joked about how she's very sanctimonious and she's the one that's always making speeches and things like that. But Katara, to me, has always been the one that is the most dedicated to this group.
Mhm.
Like
She is the ride or die.
Yeah, yes, she is the ride or die. She, for better or worse, is kind of the mother of this group. So even when somebody, even Aang, is attacking somebody in the group, even Toph, who we've seen they have, Katara and Toph have had their problems in the past. Katara is going to be the one to defend. And I will say, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but I really admire Katara and the way that she holds the group together in this episode. I think that a lot of what she does is very thankless and goes a lot under the radar. But this is Kataraing in the best way, in my opinion.
No, I agree. She's like very much the glue that holds everybody together.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, they are trekking through the desert. But we also, after a whole episode without them, come upon Zuko and Iroh kind of just minding their own business, and they are surrounded by the rough Rhino riders. And of course, because they're Fire Nation people, and Iroh and Zuko are from the Fire Nation. I will say I'm not at all surprised that obviously Iroh knows them all by name. I'm a little surprised that Zuko doesn't know who they are. Like, even by reputation. Yeah, but I'm like, I understand maybe you don't know their names, but you don't know who the Rough Rhino Riders are? Really?
Okay, so
No
funny thing I have to bring up, and it's kind of not family friendly, but it's funny enough that I think it's okay.
It's fine.
So
how often are we not family friendly?
Sure.
For crying out loud, I talked about my urine for about 10 minutes on a couple of episodes ago.
Okay, valid. Okay, so back when I was in college, I took after school acting classes.
Yeah.
And it was like a weekend where we were doing a show, and so like I had walked with them to the gas station like a block down the street so they could get snacks and whatever.
Sure.
And they all start laughing. I'm like, what is it? And they're like, Miss Amanda, look, there's some condoms and they're called Rough Riders. And I started dying. I was like, oh my gosh, guys. And they were like 12, 13. So, but when you're dealing with kids between the ages of like 11 to 13, you hear some really funny stuff. And so they're just dying. And I can't hold it together. I'm just dying too with them.
I was about to say, to 13-year-olds, just condoms are funny.
Oh yeah,
much
absolutely.
less if they're called Rough Riders.
The fact that then there was another set next to them called Twisted Pleasures, and that just became the thing we all laughed at for the rest of the day. We'd just be like, Rough Riders. So anytime I hear that, that's what I think of.
Well, there you go. There you go. Yeah, so every time we talk about the Rough Rhino Riders,
all I can hear is, Miss Amanda, look, they're called Rough Riders.
that's quite a interesting, quite a visual there. But yeah, they come after Iroh and Zuko, and I will say the scene right before that, Iroh is basically, grumbling about being in pain and everything. Obviously, he's still recuperating from getting lightning blasted by Azula a couple of episodes ago. He's still bandaged up. But even though he's in pain, even though he's not 100%, he's still kicking ass. And he beats between he and Zuko, they kind of escape the Rough Rhino Riders. I'm going to say the entire name now, just for you, Amanda, every single time we talk about that.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, they escape them, and they, escape into a town, basically just trying to find some cover. And because Zuko mentions, it would be nice if we could bump into some of your old friends that aren't trying to arrest you. And that gives Iroh an idea. And he goes to a nearby, I think it was just like a bar or a tavern or whatever you want to call, and that had a pie show table off to the side. And there's just a guy sitting at the pie show table. And I will say, I really like this scene because Iroh just knows. I don't know if he somehow knows this dude or if this is just how this secret organization that he works with just works. That if there is a lone guy sitting at a pie show table, he is going to be with the White Lotus. But he just walks up and talks to this guy. And he's like, yeah, I want to play a game, puts down the Lotus tile. And they start basically, back and forth with like secret code of like, you're in the group. Yeah, I'm in the group kind of thing. And then they set up this whole like pattern, basically showing that, yeah, they are members of the White Lotus, which is a name that we have mentioned before, but this is really the first time that it has come up in the show, and it will become much more important later on. But right now, we're kind of seeing the first hints of this secret organization that, Iroh is obviously a part of, the White Lotus, which again, we'll talk more.
His White Lotus tile when he was going to find the pirates, was that?
We definitely, we knew obviously that Pai Sho was important to him. We knew that the White Lotus tile itself was important to him, but we didn't necessarily know that it was important
right
beyond
I was trying to remember,
just
like,
the
it
game.
was indeed the White Lotus tile that he was
missing. That he thought he was missing. Yes, exactly. But yeah, I mean, obviously the White Lotus tile is important to Iroh. It's very necessary. But I will say, they start talking, and it's very good that he's able to make this connection because the guys that we saw last in the Blind Bandit, the earthbending promoter and the earthbending teacher, who are after Toph, basically have decided to make a side mission out of Iroh and Zuko, to collect on their bounty. But of course, the knowing that Iroh's a friend, covers for them and basically starts a big barroom brawl so that they can all escape and go to the secret room of a flower shop.
And they discovered that they're wanted because like there's a whole wall of like Fire Nation like wanted posters.
Yeah.
And we get not just Zuko and Iroh's poster, but like Aang has a poster. The Blue Spirit has a poster. And their posters, I didn't recognize the other two. I had to look them up on the wiki.
Okay.
The other two are the old like Fire Nation expatriates from the Deserter episode from
I was gonna say, was it Zhang and those guys?
Yes, it's those
okay.
guys.
Oh, okay.
Well, there you go. Yeah. All right.
And by the way, I had to double check the wiki for this right now. When I watched the episode, I thought I recognized the place they were, and I pulled it up again, and I wasn't sure. But the wiki says I'm right. The place where the earthbending teachers see the posters, the place where Zuko and Iroh are, is the same Misty Palms Oasis that they were in last episode.
Yes. Yeah. That is where Zuko and Iroh find their safe haven, is in that oasis.
Yeah, I think I assumed that the episode because they made some mention like this little blind girl came through here or whatnot.
Right. Yeah. Because they are specifically looking for Toph, and then decide to make a sidetrack because they think that she's disappeared into the desert. And obviously they didn't know that they had a flying bison, so they were just like, yeah, they went into the desert. I don't think they're coming back. But
it is one of those times that makes this world seem really, really small, that just like they went out of their way to this weird little oasis specifically for this, water feature. And then Zuko and Iroh just happened by the very next episode.
I mean, I will say, I don't know obviously they are looking for, someone to help them. And I think that's just the next way on there. I mean, yeah, it's a little coincidental, but
it's kind of
we also know that they were in the same space not too long ago anyway. So for them to, again, stumble upon, they didn't stumble upon each other. They just happened to stumble upon the same place a couple days different. So not too far out of the realm of possibilities. But one thing I do, like I said, I don't want to dive too much into the White Lotus, but I do want to mention that it seems, at least, that it is not beholden to any nation. Like these are not Fire Nation loyalists. These are not Earth Nation or Earth Kingdom loyalists. This is a secret society that really bends to no, national pride.
Yeah.
So it seems beyond that, because they are willing to harbor Fire Nation fugitives, that both Fire Nation and Earth Kingdom might bristle at. So it is important to note that. But yeah, eventually they do, kind of smuggle them out of the city, and they say at the end that they are on their way to Ba Sing Se, because basically they can just blend in as refugees, which is probably the best thing for them to do at this point. But getting back to our main storyline, like I said, Aang has disappeared looking for Appa. Katara is trying to keep everybody together. She is, they're drinking water, but they don't have much beyond Katara's bending water, which has been used for multiple things in multiple places, and it's not the most appetizing stuff, which is pointed out.
It had never occurred to me before this episode that she puts the same water back in the bottle. I assume she just replenished it on a regular.
I mean,
basis.
but the thing is, why? Is she can just reuse the same water because it's all just for bending. There's no need to replace the water. It's not like all of a sudden it's not good for bending anymore. Got to get rid of it and replace it.
I mean,
it's sometimes not good.
Sometimes you hit people with it and it soaks, and it gets them wet. I didn't imagine she's like pulling it all back out of their clothes every time. It seeps in the ground, and she does it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that there's not necessarily any new water in there, but it also has a lot of the old stuff in there as well.
Yeah,
and it's all just kind of mixing up. Because they mentioned the fact that they can taste the swamp people.
At the very least, I imagine it's not a canteen, so it's probably not very sanitary inside the bottle.
Yeah.
That I can live with. Also, now that I think of it, they went into the desert. Yeah. They should have had more canteens filled with water.
No, it's true. They really should have. I mean, obviously, they're thinking, we got Appa, we're going to be a couple of hours in and out.
To be fair, if all the water is on Appa,
that might, because honestly, I doubt that they took any of their provisions down into the library with them. So they probably had some provisions that just wasn't discussed. But yeah, no, sorry, Amanda, but your reaction to that, I'm just like, that sounds like the worst tagline for a product ever. Taste the swamp people.
Yeah.
It tastes like real swamp people.
Tara's just gonna ask him. It's like, wait. Do any of y'all do you care for lawnmowers? It's like, because this is not gonna taste quite like that, but close to it. Just what, wheatgrass?
Oh, yeah. But yeah, so
I think lawnmower is a fictional drink from some TV show. It's not a real one.
Okay.
That's right. It was a joke from some episode where it was like vodka and wheatgrass or something.
I was gonna say, I wasn't really sure what you were talking about, but I was just like, all right,
no,
I'll go with it.
That is my knowledge of mixology. Is that I referenced a fictional mixed drink by accident.
Very good, very good. Yeah. But yeah, so they are low on water. So Sokka, just looking for alternate sources of water, finds a cactus and decides that he is going to slice it open and drink the water out of it. Now, I will say I have heard of people drinking water from a cactus, and I don't
I have
remember
too.
hearing anything. But I mean, I would imagine that there might be different types of cactus that it might be better to do that from than others. But Sokka drinks this water and basically immediately becomes high. Like he is like on some sort of hallucinogen. He is just kind of, really enjoying himself, wide eyes. Drink cactus juice. It's the quenchiest, again, given his little his little spokesman pitch there, but kind of losing it. I will say Toph just hears water and she's like, I'll take some, and Katara's like, yeah, I don't think you want it, because she can't see Sokka losing his shit. I will say though, I didn't clock, and it took me a while to realize Momo also drinks the cactus juice. And I will say one of my favorite bits of this whole episode is Drunk Momo. Drunk Momo is like, if you notice, honestly, there are several moments in this that Sokka saves Momo's life. Like, he's high as a kite, so he's not doing it intentionally, but just by grabbing Momo's tail and leading Momo everywhere. Come on, Momo. He saves Momo so many times because Momo keeps trying to go in the opposite direction of them. But yeah, he's going all over. He's losing his shit. And honestly, Drunk Momo, I found very entertaining in this entire episode. Did you guys, Amanda, you seemed surprised. Did you not realize that Momo
about that part?
Yeah. Yeah, it's very entertaining. Even the bit where Katara goes to give them some more water after Aang comes back, and Momo immediately attacks it. And Sokka's just like, Momo, you've killed us all. And then Katara's like, no, he hasn't. And she just draws the water out, and he goes, oh, that's good. You're a water bender. Yeah. It's just just some funny bits going on, which honestly, is good, because you've got, drunk and high Sokka and Momo, but then you've got Aang over there still quietly raging. So it's good to kind of have this kind of balance of, very angry character and then loopy character. Eventually, like I said, Aang comes back, and he's very unhappy. I will say the thing is with Aang is that he's not just obviously distraught and upset, but he's doing things that are very uncharacteristic for Aang. Like, he is uncharacteristically violent for Aang. Like, we've talked a little bit in the past before about how, obviously he is a monk, he doesn't eat meat. And later on we will find out exactly how pacifistic Aang is, but we've established it a bit to this point. And there are parts of this episode, later on, there's a part in the episode where Momo gets abducted by I wrote down buzzard wasp or vulture wasp, whatever it is, because
whatever they are, I'm pretty sure I fought those in Metroid.
Sure. But they look like wasp-like creatures, but they have been circling them like buzzards.
Yeah, and they have like buzzard
the whole time. But one of them takes off with Momo, and Aang not only, saves Momo, but then sends a burst of air after the thing to like, I mean, I think it effectively just like knocks it down, but that is not something that Aang would typically do.
Yeah.
Typically, he would have just saved Momo, and it's like, all right, Momo's fine, let's go.
Yeah.
But no, he is vengeful.
And that did
in the
stand out
thing.
because he's saving Momo by that point. The thing is
Yeah.
still flying away from him. Like it's not
It,
coming
it
back.
is going away. It
Yeah.
is escaping.
And Aang goes
And-
out of his way to bring this thing down. He goes
Yes.
full, like I said earlier, like Aang Wick on this thing. And
Yeah.
just, like
Well,
I was
and then of course
yeah.
it comes out more later on because eventually they find a sand sailor.
Yeah.
And in the ground, I will say this is where Toph comes in handy because she kicks it accidentally, and it just looks like a piece of wood sticking up. But she's like, "Who buried a boat out here?" And they're like, "What are you talking about, a boat?" And she was like, "Yeah, because remember, I can see solid objects when through my feet. Yeah, it's a boat." And so they dig it up, and it is a sand sailor. So they are able to follow basically this compass that's on the sand sailor that leads them to this giant rock that seems to be kind of the central location where all of the sand people go to. And it initially they find the buzzard wasp hive or whatever, which again, after Sokka is finally kind of coming to his senses, and he tells everybody, "Yeah, I'm starting to come out of this loopy state." Immediately licks the walls of this, which they never really cover exactly what it was, but it looks very mucusy. It's not something I would have licked. I can tell you that right now.
I assume it's some kind of resin honey type.
So
not regular honey, obviously.
It's like it should
I was about to say,
it should be honey, but it's wax.
yeah, it's
Like that.
being
It's like
yeah.
like
I was
earwax.
gonna say because Sokka was not like, he was like, oh,
No,
yeah. So
it's being produced by those buzzard bee things, whatever they
Yeah.
are. But we do establish literally a couple minutes later, Sokka is not actually okay. He is
no, I
not
mean, I
actually
will say this does apparently establish a fact that I'm going to accept as canon, that Sokka learns things with his tongue.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's how he learns best.
Okay.
Are you? Is he a visual or auditory? Like no, taste.
No, he licks it.
I learned by taste.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
wonder how Suki
Sokka
feels
learns.
about that.
Yeah. And that's how I learned about the world. I like
Yes.
it.
There was a comic book a few years ago called Chew, where the detective could like eat a piece of food and like determine like the entire history of the food and everyone who had interacted with it. He solved murders this way. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, so they deal with those creatures, but then more of the sand people come, and like I said, they have this sand sailor, and immediately the sand people assume that they have stolen it. They're like, no, we found it in the desert. And there's one guy that is riding hard because like the guy that the chief or whatever of these people seems, he's like, oh, okay, you found it. That makes sense. But there's one guy that's like, no, they stole it. They stole it, Daddy. They stole it. And the moment he starts speaking, Toph's like, that guy stole Appa. And that's all Aang needs to hear. And Aang immediately loses his shit. And here's the thing. Aang just starts destroying these people's sand sailors. Just, wrecking every single one of them. And I will say, I was a little surprised because they came in very defensive and like, you stole this kind of thing. And it looked like they were going to like defend themselves or whatever. But the moment Aang starts wrecking shit, they're not trying to stop him. They are just terrified and letting it, which, you know,
I mean, if that happened, if somebody went into the Avatar state right in front of me, I'd probably be terrified as well.
but this is before he goes into the
Oh,
Avatar
okay, that's true.
state.
Yeah.
He just starts wrecking it with his airbending. But it does, you know, show that it was just that was enough intimidation that they didn't try to stop him, because they were like, okay, this guy is not to be messed with. He is pissed. And eventually the guy does confess and basically says, you know, I didn't know he belonged to you, which, oh, okay, then
It's okay if he steals
kidnapping
from
a
somebody else.
giant creature that obviously belongs to someone is okay because you didn't know it belonged to the Avatar. Yeah, you're still a dumbass kid.
Yeah.
But you know, they you know, he basically is like, I sold him. I think they said they were going to sell him in Ba Sing Se. So, you know, obviously Aang is pissed. And as Amanda mentioned, he goes into the Avatar state and he is, you know, he is lost. Aang is completely lost in his grief and his anger and his frustration. This is definitely a side of Aang that we have not seen before. We've seen him in the Avatar state. We have seen him have this kind of, you know, self-righteous rage, but we haven't seen it for this prolonged amount of time. The loss of Appa is obviously very personal to him. And you know, he is just, like I said, lost in his anger and his grief in the Avatar state. And Katara just walks up and puts her hand on his arm. And I pulled this out because just this look that she has on her face, because, you know, like I said, this whole episode, Katara has just been trying her best to keep this group together. If it hadn't been for Katara, her brother and Momo would be wandering. I mean, they'd probably be dead by now, you know, wandering around. You know, obviously Toph needed some help because she couldn't see. And, you know, Aang might have done something worse than what he has already done. You know, Katara is really keeping this thing together. And you can just see on her face, like, just this look of, you can tell she's been through a lot, but she's also concerned about her friend. But this isn't a sad face. It's not a angry or anything. Like, it is just, it's just kind of an exhausted, like, I get it. It sucks, but you need to calm down. Kind of like just this look of resignation on her face. It just, there's a lot that's said in that face. But do you guys have anything else to say about this moment?
No, I mean, I think you said pretty much all there is. I mean, it's a great moment for Katara.
Yeah, it really is.
And it definitely makes it clear, like, who the one is that kind of keeps. Somebody has to maintain order, at least to an extent, and that's what she's for.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, we have said that sometimes she goes overboard. Sometimes she's a little bit too much the cheerleader parent, but here we really see the strength of her.
And sometimes Sokka goes too far with his weirdness.
Yes.
So, you know?
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, was there anything else about this episode that you guys wanted to talk about before we move on?
I'm good.
Yeah.
We've covered all the high points. It just had a few, like, very long, but big sections, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's true.
I will say the first time they showed up on their sand boat, whatever it is, in the last episode, and they took off in it. I didn't understand the word. I think they said sandbenders in the moment, but I didn't understand they said sandbenders. The word's never been said in the show before.
Right.
And so I watched that, and my immediate thought when I saw that happen was just like, wait a second. There was just like a group full of airbenders that just left the scene, and like the show don't feel about it.
Yeah.
Let me double check that. And it's like, oh, no, they're sandbenders. It's like, I'm not sure how that boat works all that effectively if you're just throwing sand into that sail rather than like air.
I will say I'm not really sure why there is a sail on it,
Yeah.
to be honest, because they just kind of bend the sand around the pontoons. They don't really need the sail. I mean, unless whipping that up does create some sort of wind,
I mean,
possibly.
yeah, I don't know. You'd think almost that just having I would say a firm, just board or something if all you're just trying to create the momentum to move it.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know.
I'm not good at physics, so I don't know.
Yeah.
For all we were talking earlier about the Sandbenders being like Tusken Raiders, when we finally have a conversation with two of them, they seem perfectly like normal dudes.
Oh yeah, no, they 100%. That's why I'm deferring more to sand people.
Sand people,
than
that
Tusken
works.
Raiders,
Because they don't go.
yeah.
That's right. They made an explicit point last episode of like the first one they introduced us to like is missing most of his teeth and like you can't see his eyes. And just like he's
it does make them a little bit more otherworldly looking in that one. Whereas this time they just
look like regular people
wrapped up.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just sand pirates essentially.
Yeah. It's also a testament to just how angry and not thinking straight Aang is in that moment, that after they have finally found themselves a boat to get out of this desert that's going to kill them all, he then proceeds to destroy all the other boats. Like, so if I was a sand person, I'd be concerned too, because like they don't have any better way to get out of like the middle of the desert.
I mean, they are now. I believe that this rock is like their home base. So
you think so?
I mean, they all convened on it, so I would assume, and that's where the thing was literally leading them to. I mean, obviously there's the hive on top, but I think they must have a base somewhere within this mountain.
Oh, okay, then that's the case. Yeah, I didn't give a lot of thought to why it was pointing there, but
I just thought it had like a bunch of like metal in it or something.
I mean, it does, but I mean, if that's the case and that's what you're going towards, you might as well build some sort of, base there.
Yeah. Also, after the last episode established, a certain weakness for Toph that just like, yes, her powers don't work super well on sand, which tracks, honestly. I appreciated for the first time the show addressed during the battle with the vulture bees, the buzzard wasps or whatever.
Yeah.
That, when she blasted a stone up out of the air and it almost landed on Sokka, and she had to reassure something I've assumed for a long time. Like she can't see stuff when it's in the air. Like she can throw rocks, but she has no.
I mean, if it takes
go.
off from the ground and goes into the air, she can make assumptions based on the way. Yeah, I was going to say she can figure out their trajectory,
where it will fall. But yeah, she can't. Right. She loses track of it once it's up.
Yeah. But yeah. All right. Well, then let us go ahead and get then into our segments, and we are going to start with our My Cabbages moment.
My cabbages!
Which is, of course, the part of the episode where we talk about our favorite or most interesting part of the episode. Amanda, yes, why don't you start us off here? What is your My Cabbages moment?
I really thought that it just looked really cool when they were riding the sand ship. Mm-hmm. It's a really simple moment, but it just looked really cool. So I'm going to go with that one.
All right. Cool. Lauren.
I don't know. I kind of like the comedy that came out of Sokka tripping on cactus acid.
Oh, yeah.
The cactus juice stuff. Yeah.
I'm taking that one. Sorry. I blame my allergy meds.
It's a nice way to add some, again, a creative, from a writing standpoint, creative way to add some levity to what otherwise would be a dark,
very dour episode.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I think that, because obviously, Sokka on Cactus Juice is very silly, but we also have an Aang that is more serious than we've ever seen Aang before. So it kind of takes one extreme to balance out the other. Mm-hmm. I will say I am going to give an honorable mention to the whole White Lotus Pai Sho scene, because I thought that whole introduction to this secret society was very clandestine and very, all of the like secret codes and stuff that they also the whole fact that Iroh, Zuko's just tagging along and Iroh's just like, he's not an initiate. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. And then they go into this room and they just close it right in front of Zuko's face. And he's just like, yeah, you can't come in. And you know that Zuko's just like, fuck, I really should have just let Uncle Iroh teach me Pai Sho.
Yeah. By the way, I remember a line that I did love that I did not call out earlier, which is during the Clay, what was the name of those 4 Fire Nation bad guys from the beginning?
The Rough Riders.
Oh, the Rough Rhino Riders.
Thank you, Amanda. The Rough Riders. It's I got Amanda to say it. That's right. The when Iroh is introducing them, he introduces it by describing that each of them is the master of a different weapon, and they're also a pretty fantastic singing group.
Yeah,
that's great.
That was great. That was great.
And one, I like that as just a tagged on joke there, and also there's no payoff to that at all. No. We're just established that these guys are a group. Also, there's 5 of them. So, because we count the next time we got an arrow of you. So I assume we have like a first and second tenor, a baritone, a bass, and a percussionist, like pentatonics have. So yes, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if they also like record and perform under the name like the Rough Rhino Riders, but yeah.
You know that's what we're calling this episode.
Oh, I know.
Oh, all right. Yes. All right. So, but just to officially say my Cabbages moment is also Sokka and Momo, because Momo added a lot of just quick little gags in there that really made it for me. But yes, them high off their gourds through a good chunk of this episode. All right, well then let us talk about our Mako Award. This is, of course, the award that we give to our favorite or most interesting character for the episode. And Lauren, I think you're starting us off for this one. So who is getting your Mako Award?
I mean, I haven't given it to him in a while. If ever, possibly. So I'll give it to Aang. Like we're seeing some different dimensions from Aang here, obviously.
I wondered if this might warm you up a little bit to Aang this episode, because like you said, we're seeing a completely different side of Aang, and he's, because of that, becoming a bit more of a well-rounded. We see at the very least that he is capable of this type of expression, this type of emotion. And while it's not where we want him to live, it is interesting to see this come out of him.
Yeah. And it in some ways it feels more natural and more deserved in some of this anger. Like when we saw him the first time, at least in the main narrative of the show, I think we saw him in the Avatar state was when they went to like the Southern Air Temple, and he discovered that like, his teacher had been murdered 100 years ago, and he went to the Avatar state. It's like, I mean, I understand he's upset, but just like the dude was definitely dead. Like by the time you're there, he is definitely going to be dead a long time.
I was about to say, whether it regardless of when it happened, he was going to be dead after this amount of time.
Whereas his best friend, the only person who has accompanied him through this Captain America style journey 100 years into the future, it has been not just lost but taken from him,
stolen.
Yes. And not even by like his enemy, just some guy who just wanted to profit off Appa. Then no, he's furious, and he doesn't know how to handle that kind of loss.
Yeah, and I will say I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I think that actually makes it worse, because it's not like Zuko came and took him. Yeah. Something that made sense. No, just these random guys that saw Appa, thought they could make some money, and just took him.
Yeah. Like if Zuko took him, he could track Zuko. He would also
Right.
probably, at least on some level, he knows like Zuko is using this as bait for Aang.
Right.
Like, he would
If
just
he
be
tries-
annoyed at that point
Yeah,
rather
he'd be
than
annoyed.
furious.
But these
Yeah.
guys, like he can be genuinely afraid. Like how is he going to find Appa?
I was about to say, yeah, there's a lot less to go on
Yeah.
there. He probably feels a lot more helpless in
Yeah.
that situation, which probably adds to the anger that he is feeling. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah.
Now, granted, one of the few things I've been spoiled on this this show in the future is the subject of a future episode that apparently I assume features a rather minimal amount of our main cast. Because I know what the plot of the episode is.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
so it did surprise us. Like when this came up, it's like, oh, this is where Appa goes missing.
Yeah.
All right.
I will say I do want to give kudos just to the show overall for making, because obviously if they had done this like the second or third episode, it probably wouldn't have meant as much
Oh, heck
to
no.
us. But when doing it now, as you say, halfway through the entire series,
Yep.
when Appa gets kidnapped, like I said at the beginning of the episode, I don't like it.
No.
Like I feel bad about it as well. I'm worried about Appa too. So, hats off to the episode for making us care about Appa. And I think that's another reason that I like Momo kind of stepping up with the humor in this episode, because he's kind of having to fill that gap that we feel that we have of, we're used to Appa being there and now he's not. And, I will say, Appa hasn't contributed as much as I often think I remember him doing, but it's a lot his presence and the importance that we know Aang has tied to him. Whereas, there are other things that I've seen where they have animal sidekicks and they don't mean shit.
I have seen as one of the. It's been a minute now since the show came out. One of the critiques I saw of the Netflix show is that it fails a little bit on the Appa side.
You're not as connected to him as you would be in this episode. I will say I think they still realized Appa pretty well, but again, it's a shorter show.
Well,
there's a lot less time to work with it.
Part of the limitation there is that in the Netflix show, Appa is necessarily a special effect. Here, he's just one other animated character.
It's true.
And when so like, I guess my understanding is they show a little bit less of Appa because he's not going to like necessarily look quite as good on screen. If you show up in like broad daylight or something like that, so you just necessarily see less of Appa than you otherwise would, and you then have less of a connection to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, moving on with our Mako Awards. Amanda, we started, last year. Let's pick up.
Okay,
Amanda,
let's see if I can remember the
gets your
episode.
Mako Award, right?
As much as I love Drunk Sokka, I've got to give it to Katara because she's the one that kept it from escalating any more than it needed to.
Yeah. Honestly, I am echoing Amanda here because just like, Lauren said, we're getting something completely new from Aang. It's not necessarily new, but we're seeing this kind of protective side of Katara in a new light, because before it's been a little over the top and we've been able to laugh at it, but here it is serious and it is important. If Katara was not part of this group, there wouldn't be a group after this episode. There just wouldn't be. And so, to kind of highlight how important, and like I said, it's not like when this episode is resolved, everybody is like, wow, Katara, we really appreciate how much you did for us this, just now. This is a thankless role. I mean, obviously, Aang and Katara hug at the end, but that's just to calm Aang down. That is not a thank you for helping me through this hard time. That is just, I am losing my shit right now. I need some sort of comfort. So, like I said, this is a completely thankless role for Katara, and she's still doing it and doing it well. And I really, this is one of those episodes that you appreciate Katara in, and so yeah, got to give her all the kudos in the world. But yeah, it is time now to rate the episode on the Avatar State Meter. So we can rank this anywhere from 1 to 5, 5 being the best, the show at full power, 1 being the worst, could deal the show a fatal blow. So Amanda, where would you rank this episode?
I'm ranking it a 3.5. It has some very powerful moments, but it's not one that I revisit over and over.
Okay. Lauren?
You know what? I'll on the one hand, I don't think I enjoyed it as much as the library, but like some of the emotional beats are stronger here, obviously with Aang than there were in the library. So I think that balances out a little bit. I'll go ahead and give it a 4, same as last time. It feels about on par. I can see why they might pair these things together. I like the Zuko and Iroh stuff, and their subplot and where that's going. As I established a few weeks back during the Zuko Alone episode, I really like when this show does Western, like not like Western culture, but like Western movies influence.
Sure.
Hang on. Sorry. Honey? Animal noises outside.
Oh, animal noise. I was worried you heard like a child crying and you thought like
no. I knew I thought maybe it was your cats, but
that's what I was worried about.
No, like you heard a child in the next room. It's like, wait a second, we don't have a child.
No,
This is coming from like
that
outdoors.
would be need for alarm.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is some weird noise that came from outdoors, and it sounded like it sounded like a cat, kind of, but they also it didn't sound like one of ours. So
Interesting.
And our kitties are inside, so
well, there you go.
But the stuff you get in the saloon is just straight up Western stuff. Right down to the like, oh, these guys are here for the bounty, and then you sick everyone else in the the bar against basically for a bar fight. Also, I was glad to see those guys get beat up, but the 2 guys hunting Toph, because I don't care about those goobers. I don't care. I really, this episode did not make me want to see them again. I feel kind of the same way now that I think of it about the whole Azula and her 2 sidekicks, May and whatever her name is. Ty Lee?
Yes.
Ty Lee and May.
Those 2. Yeah. It's just like other people chasing our leads. It's like I'm bored by most of these people.
I will say, I mean, that they haven't appeared a whole lot.
Oh no,
they're more of their stuff is coming up. I will say the 2 people after Toph, number 1, we're not going to see them a whole lot.
Good.
And they never make a huge impression, to be honest.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But no, like I said, the Western stuff worked for me. And the main plot,
Well, there you go.
strong and resonant. So yeah, 4.
Well, I am also going to give it a 4. I appreciated a lot of the character development that came out of this. Like I said, we're seeing new things from these characters that we've been with for a while. So that's kind of nice to be getting more at this point in the series. And we will have to see how it progresses from there. But I do want to go ahead and do one last segment. It is, of course, the most important segment. Segment so important the entire show is about it, and that is this.
Is this about the Rough Riders?
Yeah, yes, this is all about the Rough Rhino Riders. Yeah, we're doing a new sponsorship for them.
Yes.
Rough Rhino Riders. Yeah.
Sounds like a cartoon from 1989.
Well, I mean, that was a play on the Power Rangers theme song, but yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But Lauren, is this your new favorite show?
No, but this is a big step up from the last 2 episodes we did.
Sure. Or
Because
the previous two before
the previous
last,
2 before these 2. Because if we go back 3 episodes, it was Zuko alone, which is, as far as I'm concerned, the high point of the series to this point.
right?
The show, the episode that did not have our main cast. And then last before the last pair of episodes before this was Bitter Work and the other thing that I didn't like.
Flying Bandit.
The chase. That was it.
The chase.
Yep.
The chase. Right.
But no, the show turned itself around here nicely. I've enjoyed these 2. No, I'm if it keeps this up, I can see myself enjoying it. Again, we're evenly at the halfway point of this series. So I look forward to where it goes from here.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds promising. But for now, let us go ahead and let people know how to get in contact with us. So, of course, you can contact me at The Flying Cow Pod on Twitter and Instagram. You can also email at The Flying Cow at gmail.com. Make sure to check out all of the shows that we have going on around the world. The Academy coming back very soon. Make sure to check out the Patreon, patreon.com/The Flying Cow. Lots of great stuff there. Lauren, go ahead and let the people know what you got going on.
You can find me on Twitter at Lauren Collins. I may have future theater stuff coming up. I think at least by the time this episode drops, I will have auditioned for something, but I don't know about that yet, obviously. And in the fall, I am producing and hoping to appear in an all-lawyer musical here if you're in the Atlanta area. That'll be in November. There'll be information up on at bardshow.com. You can learn more about it there.
All right, Amanda.
You can find me on socials at Amanda Van Heil. You can find me on Twitch at Panda Princessa and then on YouTube on Zelda Universe TV.
All right. And we will be back next time covering the episode The Serpent's Pass. But until that time, Moo.
Moo.